Now, as someone who reviews a lot of camera gear, there are a few things that I avoid doing unless it's really called for. Number one is calling something the best out of something. And the second thing is, as a photographer, even though I use video tripods, I avoid reviewing video tripods unless they are really, I would say, remarkable. I've owned a couple of video tripods in the past, one from iFootage. I've had, I think, 2 or 3 different versions of the Manfrotto B3 Live. And of course, I also use video tripods when I create content like these. Now in this video, I think we're going to talk about one of the exceptions to those, I would say, rules for myself. In this video, we'll talk about what I think, as far as I've seen, one of the best built travel video tripods in the market. And this is the Tilta VT05. Now, when I first received the Tilta VT05, it actually was not what I was expecting. It's a travel tripod, but it is a little bit heavier than what I'm used to when it comes to travel tripods. However, it did make sense because then again, you're gonna have to have a bit of weight on the fluid head for this to actually be stable. Now, even if that's about maybe say 100 or 200 grams heavier than what I'm used to with travel tripods, that is justified because of the head. And that is also still within the range of what is comfortable to carry around as a travel tripod. Now, when it comes to the height, this is 52 inches, but we also have, of course, a center column right here. And with that extended, you see me? And with that extended, this is now at 63 inches. So when it comes to the height, I would say this is typically the height that you would get on most travel tripods. Now, in fully collapsed, when you're carrying it around, it's actually just at 23 inches long. So typical, again, of a travel tripod. You cannot shorten it by inverting the center column and the head because this folds in pretty close together, so it doesn't invert the way other travel tripods would. Now, when it comes to the minimum working height, it actually chops down to 9 inches. Now, that happens because you can actually take out about 80% of the center column and then screw out this hook right here so you can pull the center column from the top. The hook that screws out is actually also a hex tool, so that's very convenient, and you can set that aside. Now, once you've done that, you can now place again the remainder of the center column and then lock it into place. Now, over here on the central joint, we have, of course, these angle locks right here that you pull, and then as you reach the widest configuration, then it actually locks in place as well. Once you've done that to all 3 legs, then this is what you get, which is now basically just 9 inches from the ground all the way to the base plate of the camera. So I actually think that's really nice because that's an extra level of versatility when it comes to the height, that you can go up to 9 inches. Now, 9 inches is not as low as what I've seen on other travel tripods, but that's probably because we still have a bit of a center column, and also we have the assembly right here on the fluid head. Now, another thing I'd like to point out is that this comes with 3 clip locks on each leg, allowing you to have 4 sections. But what I really want to talk about here is how well the clip locks were built for this one. The clip locks are, I would say, still aluminum, I think. And what's really nice about them is that they curve into the rods of the leg. Now, this is not technically the first time we've seen anything like that. However, I just really like the execution. The clip locks aren't even too thin. It wasn't the priority with this one. It does have a bit of depth, but that also makes it easier to use and easier also to lock down the line. Now, before we get to the tripod head, which is, in my opinion, a lot to talk about, Let's talk about what we have here on the central joint. We've already talked about the angle locks. They're really nice. They are also not thin, so that makes them easier to pull out. They're not sharp to the fingers, so that's really good. However, another thing to talk about here is that on the central joint, right beside each leg, on each of the corners of in between the two legs, we have 1/4 inch threads. In addition to the 1/4 inch threads, there are also two locking pins, one on top and one on the bottom. So I'm pretty sure this was made to be highly compatible with the arms that Tilta has. Now, I don't have any of those, but I do have arms from another brand. And because they are 1/4 inch threads, one of the most universal screw types that we use on camera gear, then of course they are also compatible. So we have 1, 2, 3 here on the central joint, plus another bonus one. Let me jump right onto the platform right here for the Arca Swiss type plate. Right below that, we have another 1/4 inch with two locking pins right beside them. Now let's talk about the head. Number 1, Arca Swiss. This is a travel video tripod. It does not make use of the bigger Manfrotto 401 plates. It instead uses Arca Swiss type plates. Now, if you saw one of the travel tripods I reviewed in, I think that was around 6 months ago, one thing I really did not like is that even though it also uses Arca Swiss, because these tripods are made for still relatively small cameras, still for mirrorless cameras and even DSLR cameras, I did not like the fact that the plate, the Arca Swiss plate, was oriented kind of perpendicular to the user, which means that the long side of the plate goes that way. That's a problem because that's okay if you're using a regular plate that comes with this. However, if you're using anything like this, which is a rotating bracket or maybe an L bracket, then that will be a problem because then it would be oriented this way. And that's precisely what I did not like about the tripod that I reviewed from iFootage. So the smart thing that they did here is that with the press of a button right here, right beside the knob for locking in the plate, there is a button that allows you to turn the entire platform, the entire quick release platform. And now that rotates it 90 degrees so that the plate now goes this way. Now that's not something entirely new for tripods. However, it is just really important that they implemented that part of the design here. And it doesn't go the other way. It doesn't go back. It doesn't go 360 degrees. It's just 90 degrees. And that's really all you ever need because you can just as easily switch the plates to the other side. Now when it comes to the center column, it's controlled by this lever right here, which is also curving to follow the shape of the rod. So you flick that and then you pull it up or you pull it down. Now that's good because it won't be confusing because the bigger knob right here is actually for the leveling base. That is part of the fluid head. So this is a video tripod. Again, it doesn't use a ball head. It's a fluid head, and an important part of that is the leveling base or the leveling bowl. So you can make it easier to level the camera even if you're on unleveled ground. Now once we go up, you'll see a knob right here, a small knob that controls panning, and panning on this head is 360 degrees. So that's really good. Now as we go up, another knob, the bigger knob here on the side, is actually to control the tilt. And once we unlock that, of course, it will be the fluid head in all its glory. Now, I particularly like that once you lock it, it does have a few levels. There are no clicks, but it does have a few levels to control the friction so that you can still have a bit of movement if you control it with the arm. So this is not fully locked, but it can hold the angle, the tilt of the camera. And when you lock it all the way, of course, even with a bit of tilt, actually even with a lot of tilt, because this can tilt 180 degrees, if you lock it like that, it can hold the weight of the camera. Now there's also another knob here on the side which allows you to then adjust the angle of the panning arm. And even more, if you fully rotate that, you can take out the panning arm if you're not going to be using it either way. At the same time, while there is a bit of thickness to the panning arm, it is rather short. So if you turn it counterclockwise, you actually unlock that and then you can pull it to maybe add another 40% of the panning arm. Now, I really like all of the features I've told you about, but then again, it still is a video tripod. I'm a photographer. I use video tripods for content creation, and I will probably bring this outdoors when there is a crucial video that I need to shoot outdoors. And now the problem with that is I might still want to bring a photo-centric travel tripod with me, unless this can also serve that function. It might not be the best photo tripod, but if it does function that way, then I can stick to this as my travel tripod. And luckily, you can actually think of it this way. Now it pans, that's really good. That makes up for one knob of a ball head, right? And then with this, it can tilt up and down, so that's really good. But then what if I need to shoot vertical? Well, of course, I am using a rotating bracket right here, so I can shoot vertical this way, and that will be good enough. If I need to tilt to the side though, what will be my fix? One fix is I could use the rotating bracket and lock it in not fully to 180 degrees. Another fix, which I think is really, really handy, is that, of course, I can again press this button and turn it to the side and then unlock the tilt and then use it sideways. It's not going to be as fast as a ball head, but it's also not going to be as slow as a geared head. And in a way, this fluid head is still, a three-way head. It has pan, it has tilt, just depending on what kind of tilt you'll be doing, but that will depend on the orientation of the Arca Swiss quick release platform. And then later on, whenever I need to start using the panning arm, then I can just screw it in again, and we now have, again, a fluid video tripod head. And so, yeah, there we go. This is probably the first travel video tripod that I will want to keep. And again, it's a travel tripod, but it was made more portable so that you can carry it around, but it's also something very usable here in the studio. Right now, I have a photo tripod that I use for the studio, and that's also what I use for videos. And of course, the limitation would be it doesn't have fluid movements. So now I think this Tilta VT05 is going to be another permanent tripod here in the studio for whenever I need a video tripod. For context, this is a 45 square meter space. We do have a lot of equipment, but we don't really use larger video tripods that often. We do have them, but not that often, because these are primarily the cameras we use here as well. So this will be a video travel tripod that will be a permanent studio tripod here. However, when I do need it and when I need to bring it outdoors, it will be something very convenient to use as well. It comes in space gray, but it also comes in forest green. I'm not a fan of green, but I love the fact that there is a color option. So if you're into that, of course, there is a link down below. And yes, if you have any questions about the Tilta VT05, then you can leave them down below in the comment section. And yes, of course, if you're new to the channel, my name is Nicco Valenzuela. I'm a landscape and architectural photographer and a content creator. And this is one of the few video tripods I've accepted to review, but you get why. You might want to click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell if you want to see more content about gear reviews and, of course, photography. And yeah, in any case, thank you for watching.